podcast. We'll talk about law enforcement, social networking platforms, and just life. I bet I got to talk about one. I saw it on Facebook, and it was a story out of Oklahoma City saying that they had got Oklahoma City PD had gotten pursuit of a subject that was suspected of DUI. Pursuit ensued for a while. They got to an overpass. I think the guy crashed out. They got to an overpass, and they started chasing him on foot. So they chased him for a little ways. He got to this overpass and jumps off the edge and falls to his death off of I-40. So here's the thing. Right off the bat, somebody put that on Facebook about this article. Right off the bat, somebody puts, oh, why didn't they just stop chasing him? They backed him into a corner where he didn't have a choice, where he thought his only choice was to jump onto a interstate below after jumping off this overpass, and they just need to back off. And then another one says, yeah, I would almost demand an autopsy. What? An autopsy? All it's going to show that this guy had some alcohol in his system and blunt force trauma that we know happened. It's not like the officers pushed him off the bridge. He jumped. I don't see what we're looking at here. It just floors me that somebody thinks that they shouldn't chase him, then this wouldn't have happened. Well, I've got a better idea. Don't drink and drive, have a crash, and when they get there, run. How about don't do any of those? Or even if you do drink and drive and get in a crash, how about don't run? You'll just go to jail. The best option is obviously don't put yourself in this situation. It amazes me to no end how when law enforcement's needed, there's no question that they're happy to see you when you get there. When something bad is going down, law enforcement shows up and you take over and you shut it down, whatever it is. Well, then you're the hero. But whenever you're sitting on the outside looking in and you see a news article about this and suddenly you take that stance? Really? I just don't understand. I understand most people aren't happy to see law enforcement when we're walking up to your door because you got stopped. But when you're chasing the bad guy and the bad guy dies at his own hands, what are we supposed to do with that? It's not like we told him to jump off the bridge. I don't know. It's stuff like it just floors me how people take a different view of these situations when they don't have a clue. They're armchair quarterbacking. They don't know what was going on with this deal. I don't either. I too are armchair quarterbacking this deal. I just know how the law enforcement side works. Their goal is not to get out there and hurt or kill people. Their goal is to help people. That's 98% of all law enforcement. That is their main goal. 98% because I don't really know if all the drug dogs and all the attack dogs that are out there, I don't think their real intent is your safety. I think they're just looking to buy something. I guess it's just the negative stance people take that I don't understand. I've never felt that way about any of the law enforcement, any emergency service. Even before I ever started doing any of this, I never thought, oh, those dadgum cops. I knew what they were here for. Whenever stuff went bad, that's who you called. Whenever you got hurt, you called an ambulance. When something's on fire, you call the fire department. These guys aren't here to cause problems. They're there to solve these emergent problems that you're in. And so let's just back it up right there. So the whole reason I ended up in law enforcement to begin with, I was a medic. I was going through college. I was a medic at Valley View Hospital in Ada, and I had been for several years. I was getting near the end of my college career, and even as a medic, you get in a fight from time to time. You get guys that are high, people that are high, or just intoxicated, and they want to fight whoever they can come in contact with. And so I was in the back of an ambulance with a guy, and he was a big fella, and he was high as a kite. I think he was high on meth, I'm not sure. And he had already been stabbed once in the back. That's why we were taking him to the hospital. So in the middle of this ride, this dude jumps up and decides he's going to charge me. So he charges me. I pick up an oxygen bottle called an e-bottle, and I doink and knock him down. So the guy gets back up when they hit with an oxygen bottle. It was amazing. And my partner at the time yelled, handrail. What that means is handrail. In an ambulance, there's 2 handrails that run down the top of an ambulance just so you can hold on while you're providing care and you won't fall down in case of something major like somebody slamming on the brakes. So when the driver yelled handrail, I immediately grabbed it. He locks up the brakes in the ambulance. The guy flies about, I don't know, 8 feet, hits the wall, knocks him out cold and wet. That was the day that I decided I'm going to have to get in a situation where I can actually deal with these guys and know what I'm doing. And I mean, yeah, I'm there to provide care for you, but now you're fighting me over that. So I decided that day I was going to be in a situation where if you wanted to fight me, I could still care for you. I would put those cuffs on you and carry you right to the dadgum jail. I mean, as if these guys aren't having a hard enough time as it is. Just the way things are going, and all these little weird laws about too many people being together, or this business is open or that business is open and they're not supposed to be. And they're out trying to enforce this stuff halfway. And nobody's really getting real serious about the enforcement of it, simply because, well, how do you charge somebody and fine them whenever they've opened their business and they're doing the best they can to social distance, but they got to provide food for their kids? I mean, a perfect case of this happened in Texas. Now, granted, this lady never shut down. I mean, she could have used a little better judgment on some parts of this, but she had a hair salon, I think, or a beauty salon with nails. I don't remember. It was something like that, though. She never shut down. So they had fined her. She said, okay. She stayed open. They had been back to talk to her again. She stayed open. So the third time they went and got her, they arrested her because she was not obeying this new law, this new city ordinance. So they take her to jail. Her court hearing is pretty quick. She gets in front of the judge. The judge simply says, you know, hey, if you can just apologize for what you've done and carry on, I don't think this needs to be made into a big deal. She flat said, no, I'm not going to apologize for feeding my kids. I'm not going to apologize for keeping my store open. I've got to provide food on the table somehow. And so she was sentenced to 7 days in jail. Now, being from a law enforcement background, saw trouble all over this one from the get-go. I mean, you're putting her in jail because she had her store open. Clearly, this one went for a little way. She was in jail for 2 or 3 days. It was taken to the Supreme Court. They, of course, reviewed it and let her go. And she's back open. So I'm figuring what's going to happen is the city of Dallas is going to get sued. Probably the state of Texas, and maybe the federal government. Who knows? I mean, because all these restrictions were put on by all of the above. And, I mean, I'm not going to say she doesn't have a case. Now then, do I think she should have taken the high ground on this one, and whenever you offered to just say, I'm sorry, move on, and try to do better with how you're running your business? Yeah, I think that's probably the way she should have gone. It just happens to be not the way she went. Now then, in the end, she got let go anyway, and like I said, she's probably going to get a payday out of it. Now, that's not what I'd be looking for, and I don't think that's what she was looking for out of it. I think she seriously just wanted her business open so she could provide food on the table. So my whole point to that is this. What kind of odd situation are you put in as an officer? Well, I'm here to talk to you about your store being open. I mean, I don't even know how to begin that conversation. I don't envy these guys in one least bit trying to enforce this kind of stuff. Because, I mean, it's just no clear path on how best to handle it. I mean, I know people are screaming just to open back up, just let it run its course. Well, we've kind of seen how that works. Because, you know, before they got New York shut down, that place is a hot spot and is still one of the hottest spots in the United States. So, I don't know the answers, all the great answers, but, I mean, I think if we use best judgment, I think we'll be all right, but who knows? I mean, it's one of these things we're all working for each other in this deal. And for people to take sides against law enforcement or take sides against any kind of the medical services or any part of this, it's just insane to me. I just do not grasp it. So here's the insane thing. All this stuff has been going on all over the world. And people here have even been trying to, you know, stay at home, not do much. We've closed a lot of stuff down. Churches were closed down for a long time. Only video church was allowed, which meant that I was going to church anyway since I do the video at my church. But here's the thing most people don't realize, that where I'm at, I live in rural Oklahoma. Little county I live in, to this point, they've only tested 2 people that have tested positive. Now then you're thinking, man, you're a lucky guy. That's amazing. Here's going to be the downside. They've opened the lake back up here and another natural water park that's not far away. This is a tourist hotspot during the summer. So although we've only got very little here, we're going to have a lot of it coming because these people come from Oklahoma City, which is our hottest spot in our state, and they come from all around. So, and many of them come from Texas. And we know Texas is a hot spot right now. So we may not have it too bad here yet, but we're about to import it. All right, so that's enough of that talk. I'm sure y'all are very tired of hearing about that stuff. I am just sick to death of it because that's all you hear on the news and that's all anybody wants to talk about on TV. So let's jump over into social networking, all that stuff real quick. And I'm just going to do a brief deal about it since most of my last few podcasts have been about social network stuff. So I've done some digging around, and I know a lot of people, whenever they put their podcast or any other their social network information, like if you make a Facebook post, you know, make a little video for it, or vice versa, you make one for YouTube, they often post the same information to both platforms so you can get views on both. So one thing that I ran across, and we actually use it at our church, is a program called Restream, R-E-S-T-R-E-A-M, Restream. And so if you're out there doing this stuff, it's very interesting because I also researched it and found you can record a video, upload it, and you can upload it to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So that's just kind of a little time saver right there. We use it at our church, so we go live, film in church, we use Restream, and it uploads it to Facebook Live and YouTube Live same time. And so that's just very handy because for people that don't use Facebook, they can watch YouTube. But for those that don't watch YouTube, they can watch Facebook. So it gets the message out there better for our church. But just in our, like a platform like I'm doing here, if I would use Restream, I could go ahead and record this, upload it, and send it to YouTube and Facebook same time. And if you don't do this stuff, you don't understand how much of a time saver that is, but it's huge. Now I'll jump in here and talk about a little entertainment stuff real quick. Getting pretty excited. The 3rd season of Yellowstone's coming soon. It's coming here in June. If you haven't checked out Yellowstone, it's with Kevin Costner. And if you haven't watched it, I don't know what it's playing on, if it's on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon. Go see if you can find the first 2 seasons and check this out. Man, it is great. It's about this guy that owns this huge ranch, and the ranch is called Yellowstone. And this guy will do anything to keep all his land. And man, it's one of those shows that you're just dying for the next episode every week. So another one that's coming out, well, I mean, I should go back and say, well, the one that just went off, The Last Dance. If y'all didn't catch that, The Last Dance was about the Bulls run in the 90s whenever they won 6 titles. And 98% of it's about Michael Jordan, granted. But very good series. The only thing I didn't like about the series was the back and forth. Here we are at 91, and here we are at 98, and then here we are at 92, and here we are at 97. And it'd sit there and bounce back and forth. That wore me out a little bit. But the amount of information you found out that was going on there at that time, amazing. And if you do follow basketball, just watch a lot of the footage. Man, none of those guys could play today simply because none of them could make it past the first quarter. They'd all fouled out. It's amazing how much rougher they played back then. My point being, if you guys haven't watched Yellowstone, just look that dude up. And if you do, I'm sure y'all are excited as me. I'm just ready for that to come out because we look forward to it. My wife and I look forward to it every week. That's one of our favorite shows on right now. And okay, so here we go. As always, do not consider this expert legal advice. Do not think this is something that you're going to take to court and get you out of any kind of trouble, because this is not expert legal advice. This is just coming from a retired law enforcement officer. If you do need some true legal advice, find you a good attorney and let them do the talking for you, because what I say is probably not going to hold any water in court. Okay, so the very first one that I got to ask about this week is something I've covered a little bit before, and it's over the angle of incidents. And so what that is is whenever an officer is using a radar, if you've ever noticed, they are trying to be as parallel with the road as they can and shooting with as little angle from their car to your car. So the reason of that is it has to do with the coefficient of cosine. So whenever you get over, it's in between 18 and 22 degrees. Once you get over that area and you're at more of an angle of that with a radar, it can actually alter the speed on the radar from what you're actually doing. Anything under that, it's very accurate. But if you're shooting at a harder angle than that, it really can give you a negative reading. Most of the time it gives you more speed. So I'll give you a very good example of it. We have a small town near here, and while I was still a trooper, I was running up to a town of Ada, which is about 25 miles away. I went through this smaller town, and they have a 90-degree turn in the town, a 90-degree curve. And I was coming up on that curve, and I was doing right at the speed limit, which I think was 35. And I know he's there. That's why, I mean, I'm obeying by the letter of the law, because I know this officer hangs around there. My county's only like 5-6 miles from there. So I know who this guy is. So I come into this curve, he hits me with radar, pulls me over, and says, well, you know how fast you were doing? I said, yeah, I was doing 35. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. I got you at 47 miles an hour. I said, I assure you, you didn't. And so he started getting huffy with me. I mean, which I get because I'm not agreeing with him. But in this one, I go, I tell you what. I said, considering that you were sitting at about a 40 to 45 degree angle from me, go ahead and write this ticket, and I'm going to make you feel dumb in court. But you feel free to write it. Here you go. He sits there for a minute and frowns. And he goes, I said, do you know what the coefficient of cosine is? The angle of incidence. Now he looks confused. So he really didn't know what I was talking about. Come to find out, this guy hadn't been through cleat yet. And they've got him out there running radar, which is very dangerous because he doesn't know about this. And so I then broke out and started explaining it to him. Finally, he goes, who are you? And I said, you don't remember me? I'm the state trooper that showed up on the last wreck you worked. He goes, oh my gosh. Well, here, oh yeah. I said, well, here's the thing. Yeah. If you've written any tickets today, you need to contact every one of them and go to the courthouse and dismiss every citation. Because if you've been sitting here in this curve shooting all these cars, you're costing a lot of innocent people a lot of money. Because some of these people, although they know that they weren't speeding, they're not going to be able to come to court. They probably won't be able to take off their job to come to court. And so now you're going to cost them a ton of money for something they didn't even do. So you need to dismiss all those tickets. Well, I'm not doing all that. You should. Well, so as it turned out, this guy actually didn't last much longer than 2 more weeks. And so I'm sure all those citations were dropped anyway because the officer wasn't there. He was just doing a lot of very iffy practices in this little town. And when I say little town, I'm talking, I don't know, 800,000 people? 1,000 maybe pushing it. I mean, seriously. So the problem here is he really didn't know what he was doing with that thing. Now, you know, you'll hear ignorance is bliss. Well, not in this situation. If you're sitting in that car on that radar, you better know what you're doing. If you're doing that job, you better know what you're doing. You better know what the laws are. That's why in Oklahoma we have a law where you can work, I think, up to a year without a cleat certification, which to me is nuts. I don't know how you put somebody out there to represent your city, your town, your state, whatever. State, you can't do it. But how you represent your town with somebody that's not cleat certified, I mean, there is a ton of liability there. And now for all of you that have just recently got a citation for speed and you think, oh yeah, I've got this dude beat, you better check again. Because if they were driving down the road and they met you, I promise you they were shooting away far enough down the road that the radar's setting straight or pretty close thereof when they picked you up. And if they're sitting in a median, I can promise you they're not over 8 degrees, 7 degrees, because it doesn't take much for us to pick you up. Those things are very sensitive and they know how to pick up which car. So, I mean, it's one of those things that's going to be hard to throw out there in court unless you have some real hard knowledge and an unusual situation like I was in where it was close to 40, 45 degrees. I mean, that is blatantly wrong. So don't think you're probably going to get out of too many speeding tickets with this information, But just in the rare instance that you go into a small town and it's one of these deals where they're shooting at a hard angle like that, don't make a big scene. Hold that little nugget in the back of your head, do a little research, go to court, and just take that with you. Because anybody that looks at that's going to go, yeah, hey, they're wrong. You know, it's that angle. It's all in writing. It's just math. So just hold that little nugget in there just in case you need it. Okay, so the next one. This person was pretty upset, which understandably, because in my opinion, the other person's wrong too. But they were coming down the interstate, and the second car, this person that contacted me, probably following too close. And the car in front of them was jacking with them, wasn't letting them around. You know, changing lanes when they change lanes, that stuff, just that ignorant stuff that we try to stop when we're out there. So this one went on long enough, and then all of a sudden the front car slams on the brakes real quick, just jacking with them. Well, unfortunately, when he slammed on the brakes, this car wasn't able to stop. Because, I mean, they're doing 80 miles an hour down the interstate. She rear ends them. Well, now she's hot, they're hot, and she, under no uncertain terms, is right. You can't do that. You cannot try to make somebody hit you like that. It is wrong. Now, here's where you run into the big problem with it, and I explained this to her. If that happens to you, A, you've got to be able to prove that you weren't following too close, and B, that they slammed on the brakes. Without some kind of evidence, it's going to be hard to prove. And as the officer comes up and does that stuff, I'm telling you, from this side of it, I can't prove it. All I can prove is that you hit them from behind, and more often than not, it leads to following too close. So why I'm saying that is, you know, you always hear the 2-car rule. You're 2 car lengths behind the car in front of you. Well, if you're doing 80, you better make it 3 or 4. Because if they do that little brake pump, and you have time to react. But if you're a car length back and they hit that little brake pump, you're going to hit them. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. So what I'm telling you is, you see all these people that have these little cameras in their car that's just, they run continuously while you're going down the road. And if nothing happens, delete that. Turn it on the next time. You know, truck drivers are using this stuff almost full time now, and it has saved a ton of them a bunch of heartache. Simply because you get to see exactly what the car did. I mean, myself, I'm considering getting one and putting them in our vehicles. Simply because if something stupid happens, I don't have to explain anything. I can say, here's you some evidence. This is what happened. You can watch it on video. And then it's going to be hard to fight that in court for the other guy. So in the end, on that one, what I'm saying is, you've got to allow the distance. I mean, you've got to know that those people are out there. They're going to try to get you involved in the accident simply to try to suck some money out of you, to claim they're hurt after it. Oh my gosh, my neck. And they'll fight this dude to the end, trying to just get that free money out of your insurance and out of you. And so now this is a little free one, because this one's a pet peeve of mine. I just got done driving halfway across the state, maybe a little more. And traffic moves fast on the interstate. And most of you already knew that, but I run a little fast myself, just basically to kind of keep up with how the flow of the traffic's going, because honestly, if you're doing the speed limit out there now, you're going to have people on your bumper. So when I'm running a little fast and I've jumped out in the left lane and I'm trying to go around somebody, I just love it when somebody comes flying up on my bumper and starts flashing their headlights at me. Pet peeve, man. Don't tell me to move out of the way, because here's the thing. If I'm speeding a little bit and I'm in the left lane and you're trying to make me move over so you can pass me, you're speeding worse. And you're following too close if you're that close to my bumper and you're sitting there just constantly flashing those headlights. So here's the big problem with that. You're flashing your headlight, it's illegal. It's illegal use of lighting device going down a highway. And secondly, your other heartache you're going to run into there is, I'm that guy. You come up behind me and you start flashing your headlights, I won't move. I'll stay in that inside lane, running a little fast, just to make you illegally pass me on the right, hoping that you'll get caught doing that. And if you do, you're probably not even going to get dinged with the illegal passing. You're going to get dinged with the speed that you're doing, because you humped up and came around me like a madman, which means that you were obviously speeding badly. So, I mean, that one there, no. It's just one of those things, and it's kind of like construction zones. I love it whenever you see the sign that says merge now. guess what that means? You need to have merged before you reach that sign. It's kind of like a stop sign. You need to stop before you get to the stop sign. Those construction signs, those merge now signs, they're enforceable. Because at the time, that is the rule of that road right there where you're at. So if there happens to be a law enforcement officer there, you can get a citation for that. So I love the ones that just ignore that sign and they go right down until it starts necking in, you know, coming in there to the other lane and expect you to let them in. Again, I'm that guy. I will sit there and not let you in at all. If you take out barrels, your problem. You passed a sign half a mile ago. You should have got in like everybody else and not been the one guy trying to get 5 more cars ahead. And it wears me out because you see it time and time again. I've actually caught those people back when I work. And they always have, they just wouldn't let me in. You were doing 85. Can you explain that side of it? Speed limit's 60 here in this construction zone. It's all just a bunch of crap whenever they're sitting there telling you that. You know they're full of it. They're that guy that is trying to blow around everybody after it says merge now. Just pay attention to the signs. Do what the signs say. Now then, am I right by doing things that way? Probably not. Because someday I'm probably going to do that and I'm going to get that one guy that decides, heck with it, I'm just hitting him. Now what? I mean, fair enough. I'll be in the clear because this guy has to cross a lane line to hit me. And he was obviously past a sign that said merge now, but is it really worth all the trouble? I mean, do I really need to be doing that? Because in the end, it won't be worth the trouble of me to have to deal with the damage. Maybe I'm injured, maybe I'm not. I'm going to have to go to a body shop, get all this work done, deal with fighting all the insurance stuff. So no, it's probably not worth it. It's just one of those things that you see time and time again. And the law enforcement just comes out in me and I'm going, no, man, you're wrong. I can't do anything about it right now, but this is what I can do is I can maintain my lane and not let you in. I definitely don't recommend anybody doing the same stuff like that I'm doing, because here's a little nugget that I hadn't told you. I drive a 1-ton truck with a steel flatbed on it. Honestly, if you sideswipe me, I'm probably not losing. Unless you catch me way up at the nose, you're going to catch steel flatbed. So I'm probably not losing that fight. But I don't recommend anybody do that. And I try not to do it all the time. And I usually do not do it at all if I've got anybody in the car with me. I'm not willing to jeopardize anybody else's safety just for my little temper tantrum that I'm throwing because somebody's not obeying the law around me. So guys, I'm going to be wrapping this one up. I'm hoping here real shortly I'll get to start interviewing some people again. I really haven't been asking too many people with all this stuff going on in the world, simply because I don't want to put them in a position. You know, I mean, I know them well, and I don't want them to feel like they are obligated to come do this and just put them in a spot where they're uncomfortable. And I feel like now we're starting to open back up enough that I'm going to have some more people come on. I may have a couple of repeats from earlier ones, simply because they are willing to do it, and I know they're willing to do it, and they actually enjoyed it. And I'll try to get new people as often as I can, because I love learning the story of new people all the time, because that is probably the biggest reason that I even listen to podcasts as much as I do. I just like hearing about the people, because everybody has a story. And who doesn't like hearing a good story? I mean, because a lot of these guys, and I'm going to let you take your pick, tons of these guys that do these big podcasts, a lot of the big actors, a lot of the big singers, a lot of athletes came from nothing. The biggest part of them were dirt poor. Joe Rogan, the guy I keep talking to you about all the time, that does a great big podcast, he was dirt poor. Food stamps, the works. I mean, he grew up with nothing, and the dude's, I don't know what the dude's worth. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. And he came from nothing. And probably the biggest reason for that is he had nothing, so once he got something, he didn't want to let it go. And so he protected it with everything he could to make sure he could keep it, and let his family go with it longer, help his kids out, make better lives for all of them. So that's my plans here down the road, is I'm hoping to start interviewing people again real soon. And my next thing is, just like always, if you guys haven't checked out Smokey Uncuffed yet, run on over there to check it out on YouTube. If you like it, share it and let somebody else know about it. And don't forget about my Smokey, www.smokeyuncuffed.com. I've got links to all my podcasts that I've done in the past. I've got a list of stuff, equipment that I've used. And just here recently, I've listed t-shirts for Smokey CNC Woodworks. Hopefully before long I'll have some for Smokey Uncuffed. If you guys like those things, just go check them out and pick you one up. Well guys, that's going to be all today. If y'all haven't done so yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you and hear y'all next time.